Kerri George is an actor, singer, and voice coach with a wealth of performance experience spanning cruise ships, theater, and beyond. Known for her warm and approachable teaching style, she creates a safe space where students can embrace their creativity and grow with confidence. Passionate about empowering others, Kerri's mantra is simple but transformative. You are enough. Whether performing on stage or guiding students, she's committed to helping people unlock their full potential and find the joy in the process. So, Kerri, good to sit down today.
Yes, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Kerri, we work together. I know you as a teacher and performer and everything. You've done so much already so far. Like I remember you even had to take a couple weeks off to go work on a cruise ship and stuff.
Hmm.
So, what's something you really want to do, like a goal you have, let's say, in like the next 10, 15 years in terms of performing? Does anything come to mind and say, I wish I could be
Yes.
doing that?
Yes, I want to do Wicked. That's my biggest dream. I know Wicked is so relevant right now because of the movie, but it's been a big part of my life. I went to school for musical theater and I went to Pace in Manhattan. And it was just a role that I discovered when I was quite young and had the opportunity to start auditioning for it when I was 19 or 20, and I'm 32 now. And they continue to have me back and audition and continue working the material. So I'm hoping that that's on the
Like
horizon for me.
on Broadway
Yeah.
specifically,
Yes, they also have another production running, like a national
like a
tour.
touring show, right?
Yeah, so a lot of the people, do you know the show?
I've never actually seen it before, but
You know the gist?
yeah, I kind of know what it's about, the Wizard
Right.
of Oz and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's the story about how the Wicked Witch came to be the Wicked Witch.
Right.
So she's green, um, literally has green skin, and that's the role that I would want to
You want to
play.
be the actual witch
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yourself.
Yes. So she sings the big song Defying Gravity, and she like flies at the end of the first act.
And these types of roles on Broadway, are there like there's probably the main person, right? And then like I guess an understudy.
Yeah, so the way that it works for Wicked, because the role, her name is Elphaba, because she has such a demanding show, both physically and vocally, one of
Wow.
the canonically the hardest female role you could probably do 8 times a week on Broadway or national tour schedule. So there's the main person who plays it every night. When that person is sick or whatever, the standby will go on. And the standby is the actor that doesn't perform in the show every night, whose job is literally to stand by for the person playing it.
So if that when the person retires, like I guess, or does the standby person go in, or is
It
it
happens,
they
but it's not guaranteed.
Mhm.
There's room for a promotion, you know. It really depends on timing. And there's another person that plays the role too who understudies, who goes on in the event that the main person and the standby aren't available.
Yeah. If you were to audition for it, let's say, and like you got a different role, like they're like, oh, we want you to do this, like how would you feel about that? You think like
Well,
because you have this such a oh, I want that specific role.
yes. Well, I have known the creative team for over a decade. And so I don't think I would be consider I actually have a callback for the national tour
Beautiful.
in January.
Okay.
So I've been working hard at that. Um, but yeah, I've known the creative team, which is like the director, the music director, the casting team, the producers. I've known them for over a decade. So I
Okay.
think that they see me in that role and have been kind of
Okay.
helping me prep to be ready for something like that because it's so demanding.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about that, like let's say you get the job and stuff, and it's going to be a huge feather in your cap, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, yes, and also it would be really overwhelming.
yeah, it would be overwhelming too,
It would
probably,
just
right?
change my day to day, of course.
Hmm.
So,
Well, so what is it specifically like? Is it the songs themselves that you feel like, oh, my voice was meant for this? Like, I know you have probably a relationship thing about what the character does, but the
yeah.
songs are really special. They just fit your range, you feel.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first shows that I saw on Broadway where when that character came out, I saw the original cast, so it was Dina Menzel,
Oh,
that
yeah,
singer.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
she was the
she was
original?
the original.
Wow.
So I saw her 20 years ago play the role. Um, and I was like 12, you know? And it was I had seen, was fortunate enough to see a few Broadway shows before that one because we lived so close to
Yeah,
the
that was like a
city.
newer
And
show, right? In a
yeah,
sense, like compared to someone when
right,
like
like
back.
Les Mis or Phantom of
Exactly.
the Opera, Cats. And I had seen all of those at that
Yeah.
point by the time I got to Wicked. So when I saw Idina Menzel sing her first big number in the show, which is called The Wizard and I, it was like the first moment where I was like, oh, I could do that, you know, because I'm not a dancer. And some of the older shows also aren't really my style. Like I don't really see myself in like Oklahoma or Carousel, something that's, you know, a little bit more classic.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to Broadway though, like which show was it? Was like that was the first one you actually saw? Do you remember? The
The first
first?
one that I saw ever was
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
It's a
So how
classic.
old were you? You remember?
Oh my gosh, 7, 8.
Yeah. Did something happen that day where or not? It
Not
was
yet.
okay.
No, it was Wicked for sure. I mean, I loved Cats, but in a more like I didn't see myself in that show because it's so much dancing and it's kind of hard to see yourself in a show where
Yeah.
everyone's a cat. It's a
Yeah, I
ridiculous
remember
show.
I saw it too. It was
It's
strange.
it is strange, and I get that for sure, but it was a big intro into musical theater for me, and I loved watching the dancers. And that's also qu quite an immersive show, at least that production that I saw, like the cats would come out into the audience,
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
that was so exciting for me too as a kid. But Wicked was the first one where I was like, oh, I can do that and I want to do that. So
Yeah.
before I even knew really had a sense of what my authentic voice was, I saw myself in that role.
It's so interesting though. You had that was the specific moment,
Right.
but at the same time, it's like that's what the dream role is,
Yeah.
you know?
It's so crazy.
And no matter what genre or what you're actually interested in, like there's there's something like that for a lot of people, like even people who like rock stars who play bass. So I want to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously that was one thing, but there's like got to be a couple of other, things that have, that just truly lit the fire and like because you're
Hmm.
still doing it. I mean, even though you're, in your 30s now, some
Hmm.
people do this, they go to college or they get out of college and they quit right away
Yeah.
when they're like 21 or 30.
Right.
So you've still been doing it. So what's been like the other moments that have like just kept it going, like the ambition and the drive the
Oh
last
my
like 10
gosh.
years?
Oh, it's been a journey. There have certainly been moments where I have considered not pursuing acting anymore. Mainly because it's simply not stable. Most actors do not make a
Yeah, being an
living
artist is
acting.
being an
It's
artist is just hard, period.
right, right, right. So am really fortunate to have incredibly supportive parents who have supported me not only emotionally but financially as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what ends up happening, and we actually talked about this last night, where what ends up happening is when I don't sing for a while, it feels like something's missing from my life.
Yeah.
So even in the moments where I've decided like I'm done, a few weeks go by and I'm like, I don't feel quite myself, and then I'll either teach a really good lesson or see the show or get inspired
Yeah.
by something that
Yeah,
I
it
see.
gets always it's always like you get that jolt of energy,
Right, right, right.
whether it's seeing a show or something like
Yeah,
that.
seeing a show or teaching real is so inspiring. It's really exciting to
Yeah,
watch a
yeah.
student, something just clicks
Yeah,
for
and
them.
also I was kind of curious too because you've studied this formally, like you've been in the going to school to study musical theater and singing. It's like a totally different animal in itself,
Yeah,
where you're being graded and you're in this
yeah,
environment
yeah.
that like people don't quite understand. Did you have any people who gave you advice like or any mentors that
Yes.
still advice still sticks with you?
Yes. Oh my goodness. And still have relationships with some of those people,
That's awesome.
particularly my voice teacher from college, whose name is Robert Susuma, still teaches and is truly so remarkable. I've never met a teacher like him, music or not. And he's very he almost teaches by not teaching. He's not like do this, do this, do this.
Right,
He
right, right.
he like guides you to discover things for yourself.
Hmm.
And that is great because it taught me not to be so sound oriented. It's easy to go, okay, I want to sound like Adina Menzel, right? And bring that to a voice teacher and say, how can I sing like this, you know? And Robert was the first person that was like, I want to figure out how you sing like you,
Yeah.
right? Not how you sing like Celine Dion or Barbara Streisand, you know?
Yeah, that's a big thing. I've been talking to a lot of educators, particularly a lot of people from Berkeley, a lot of
Mm,
and they're just saying like the best thing to do is to encourage the student to be themselves. You
yes.
know, but when you're in that position, like these some people who are in the college role, the top of what was considered the education world, they might not be that open.
Yeah.
And they might try to like steer you in a different direction or like, put their own stamp on you.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this person Robert, his name is
Yeah, yeah.
right, that he like was not like that at all and
Not
wanted
like
you
that
to
at all.
be yourself.
Right, which is really rare,
It's so
especially in the musical theater community where you totally get typecast and labeled and put in a box as one thing. And honestly, that happened to me when I was in college with Elphaba, with Wicked, where
yeah.
everyone was like, "You're gonna play that role one day. You're so good for it." And initially, I was so excited that other people saw that in me as well. And then over time, as I wasn't getting the job and was auditioning for it quite frequently, being invited to audition quite frequently, um, I started to doubt myself and got into like, oh, well, when you start to doubt yourself, especially as an actor, a singer, an artist, you start to think, oh, what am I doing wrong? I need to change something about myself in order to fit this mold. And so I tried for so many years, not just with that show, but anything I was auditioning for. Um, I would approach it as, okay, what do they want to see instead of, well, how do I want to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And the
You're
moment
split, yeah.
that I let go of trying to guess what they could possibly be looking for and go, okay, I'm just going to do this the way that I want to do it. If somebody said to me, hey, you're going to play Alphaba in 3 months and you have 3 months to prepare and you have no help, right? What would I bring? What would I do?
Hmm.
And how would I show up authentically as myself in this role instead of, doing the Idina Menzel impression? And with a role like Alphaba where so many iconic women have played that role, you want to do right by the role and honor them, but you also want to be yourself. And that's tricky with a show that's been on Broadway for over 20 years now that runs like a machine,
Yeah.
because you do have to be what they are looking for.
Hmm.
You do have to have those pipes to
Is
sing
part
those
of it luck? Do
songs
you think
and
part of it's luck too in this business? Because I've been talking to a lot of people, and like I'm not gonna mention this person's name, but they're a professor at one of the best music schools in the world, and they have played with so many people. They have people that he's like, but he kind of feels like still not satisfied. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
in what he's doing. And he thinks a big part of like who gets certain jobs and stuff, a part of it is luck. I mean, do you think that's part of it too?
It's a tough subject. There have been times when I have like, oh, those people are just lucky and they keep booking these jobs. And also, I see how my expression changes if I'm having a negative idea of what I'm doing. Like when I was feeling like, oh, I need to guess what they want and
Right.
show up at the audition like that wasn't fun for me.
Yeah. And can they read that?
Absolutely. They can totally read that you're not being yourself, you know? They sit there and watch 100 people all day. Like they're so good at
Yeah.
reading that
And let's talk about
energy.
auditioning too, because I've done auditions, but not the type of auditions you've done.
Yeah, yeah.
There's like several people
Yeah, yeah,
watching
yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing. Like I've gone one on one with a room with somebody, that sort of thing. When you audition, like, it's almost like you have to, this is how I feel about it. You can talk about but it's like you have to almost detach from yourself in a sense.
Man, I've had so many
You're
different,
totally like, you just are like I'm here right now, but I have to be over there and like
yeah,
just change the way I think completely.
it is.
Autopilot, but there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And mindset is such a big part of it. And these kinds of auditions are as scary as you would think. It's like if your first audition, you go in and it's
And
casting,
some of them are
just
in
the
like the
casting
theater too,
team.
right? Like in the theater
Not
or
so much anymore.
okay,
So
yeah.
you're in a studio with a piano and a table, and you walk in and you're in front of the table and the piano's right there, and they say, "Great, whenever you're ready." So it's so terrifying. So the first one is just the casting team whose job it is to bring in actors who they think could be right for what they're looking for. If you pass that and casting is like, yes, we think you're right for this, then you go again in front of even more people. Now it's the creative
Is
team.
that the first callback or that's
That's the
like
first callback,
okay,
yeah.
got it.
That will be the director, the composer, sometimes the music
The
director.
music director will be there too,
Yeah,
who's conducting the
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah,
They even
yeah.
have input in who should
Yeah, yeah,
play.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Big input.
crazy.
And then the final callback is all of those people and plus producers, plus a camera for whoever's not available that day that
Yeah.
needs to okay you.
Hmm.
So the final, it is truly so terrifying to walk into a room. There's a table there and there's like 20 people sitting there. One time I made it to final callbacks for Mean Girls, the musical on Broadway, and I walked in and Tina Fey was sitting there behind the table.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, and that's the moment when you have to detach a little because obviously I can't go in and be like, Tina Fey,
Right.
you have to be like, oh, if I got this job, you would be my boss,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Well, I think that's the hardest part is like surrendering
Yeah.
to
And
that.
that day, I did not succeed in surrendering. I was so scared. I wanted so badly for them to like me and to make all the right choices that I did not bring my own energy to it, you
Yeah.
know?
But it's a different phase now, and now you look back, which I also wanted to ask you too, because um, when you went to shows when you were younger, right?
Uh-huh.
You were probably like, you're a kid, you're excited and looking at it,
Hmm.
and then like you decide to consider it as a career,
Hmm.
and then you're pursuing it, and it's like you might get a little bit more serious when you go to watch the show.
Oh my gosh, it's
Like you're looking at,
completely changed my relationship to watching shows.
but where is it now? Are you like, are you back in that like playful thing?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once I was able, and it's been a recent transition, being able to kind of tap into my own energy and how I would play something. Once that shift and I surrendered to being like, well, I can't be anyone else besides myself, so might as well just show you that. Then I started enjoying shows again and feeling inspired and playful and sitting there like, ooh, this really works. That person's amazing. This isn't instead of being like, I don't like and being very like
I think that,
negative about it.
but I think that's a part that like if you're serious about it, you're gonna go through into some. It might last for some people, it might last for a day. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, it might last for years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but that's just everybody's journey in
Right.
itself.
And back to speaking about luck, I'm in a phase right now where I don't know if it's luck so much. I used to think that. But once I kind of surrendered and decided that I was enough as myself instead of me doing an impression of somebody else, um, I started making choices that benefited where I thought I deserved to be. For example, with Wicked. I know that the music director does one-on-one coaching.
Hmm.
So once I thought that and believed I could play the role, I reached out to him and was like, hey, can we work on this
That's
together?
awesome.
And I showed up, I sang, and he was like, oh my gosh, he in that coaching, he emailed the casting director and said, I want to bring Kerri George in person. So is that luck? I don't think so.
No,
I
but you're
decided
creating the
I
opportunity.
created the opportunity, and you have to be in the right mindset. I wouldn't have done that until I was thought I was ready, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I think that's part of it too. You have to create the opportunities for yourself. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what style or genre you're pursuing or
Yeah.
anything like that. That's no, but you have to get to that point to actually say, okay, like I feel like confident enough to reach out to them.
Right.
Mhm.
And I didn't feel confident enough for a while. And I said to myself, okay, I can sit around and be mad that I'm not experiencing the luck, or I can be honest with myself and go, can I sing Alphabet 8 times a week? I didn't feel at that time that I could. So then I
Hmm.
said, okay, what do I have to do in order to feel ready for that? I hired a new voice teacher. I started singing the show by myself in my room every day,
Yeah.
8 times a week,
Wow.
to see if I could really do it, you know? And over time, things started to click. I started singing straight through the show easily with no fatigue, no, like my stamina really built. And that's when I was like, okay, now I believe I can do this,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a good point. I should start doing that. Would start like I should start playing a whole gig to
Right?
practice that.
Right? I was like, why haven't I ever thought of this before?
No, that no, I no, I think that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, success in this business, especially, being in the Broadway and musical theater world.
Mhm.
And things have changed so much. Like some people will say success is like X number of followers, or success is this many streams, or I did this or played at this, did this show or whatnot. Like what's success for you at this point?
Mm. Well, I've really detached myself from the idea of success being booking the job. Um, and now I see success as in the relationships that I've been able to build over the years. Meaning, if I am genuinely enjoying my time acting, collaborating with people, and feeling like myself and not putting on a mask of, man, I'm really harping on this, but this has been just a big
No, I,
part of
I
it
think
for
it's
me.
interesting.
It's a big part of me being myself in the industry. Um, that is success to me now
Yeah.
because there's so much that's outside of your control. You could be the best actor for the role and not get it because you're 2 inches taller than you need to be, right?
Yeah, there's
Or
stuff like that that
yeah,
I've heard happens too.
and it's so
Like
true.
your hair is not the certain way or
Hmm.
something like that, even though you could wear but or even just like a couple inches shorter or taller.
Yep.
These things.
Yeah. I mean, as an example for Wicked, the Glinda, the Good Witch in the show, she descends onto the stage in this bubble.
Oh, okay.
And Kristen Chenoweth, the original Glinda, is really short. Like I think like 5 feet tall, or
Wow.
maybe like somewhere around there. And now all of the Glindas, if you don't fit into the bubble, you can't play Glinda. And so it's like you could be the best and you don't fit into the bubble, you know?
Yeah, let's talk. What's been the most rewarding role you've done up to this point? That like, I mean, or even if there's maybe like one or two, one that
Yeah.
stands out.
Yeah. I did Heathers, the musical based off of the movie with and I played the Winona Ryder role.
I
You
don't
know the
know that
show?
movie or the show.
It's like the OG Mean Girls.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
might look
yeah.
into it then. It's a
Yes.
movie too?
It started as a movie
Okay,
and they made it into a musical recently.
got it.
The same writers that took Legally Blonde and made that into a musical did it with Heathers as well.
Yeah, what's going on with that? Like all this, like all the movies turning into shows. That they're
Oof.
just trying to build more audiences. Like that's like
Absolutely. Yeah, I always say musical theater as a business, show business, is actually a real estate business.
Mrs. Doubtfire was a
Yeah.
show and stuff.
And I say real estate because you have to sell your show to the owners of the theaters.
When you did the show, the Heather show,
Hmm.
how many? Do you remember how many productions there were of it? Like a certain number of shows there were, or like a
We only
ballpark?
and we did maybe like a month and a
A
half.
month and a half.
Yeah.
When you finished the last one, is it like what's next? Like, were you able to sit in that a little bit, or like, were you the type of person where it's like, I need to go to the next?
Oh my gosh. I think every actor feels like after you finish a show, like, am I ever gonna work again? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have absolutely no idea what will come. Um, After that, actually, like the day after we closed, I got super sick. My body was just like, great, we did that, and now you're gonna rest.
Wow. Yeah, it's your body's telling you you need to rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got really sick and just was in bed for like a week,
Uh,
just recovering, processing, learning, looking back on all the things that I loved and all the things that I think I could do better.
and when you're doing a show like that, where you
Hmm.
have such a um, vital role in it, like what happens before you go on the stage? Do you tell yourself a mantra or something, or you take a deep breath, like, or even the day of, like, what has to happen to like be ready to go?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's really specific to the show. That show is also really vocally demanding. Um, so a lot of it is just prepping your body for like 2.5 hours of nonstop singing, which for that role it was very vocally challenging. Um, so I prep more physically than I do emotionally,
Hmm.
especially when it's good writing and you can trust the material. It's kind of just like getting on the train. The music starts and you're in and like, okay, I'm not gonna there is almost an autopilot that happens. You go on the journey of the story,
Yeah,
right?
I think that just had that just I mean like we want to be there, but you just we're on autopilot and but that mean we're in the moment. Like
Right.
you're in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
zone.
It's so present because, you're in front of so many people that are watching you. You can't help but be like, whoa, I am in this moment right now. But because you've rehearsed so much, your body, your voice knows what to do for 2.5 hours,
Yeah, I've had moments like that where I played guitar and I'm like, wait, I just like how do I like they're
How did
just
I get
waiting for me, they're
here?
waiting for me to move my fingers right now, you know?
Right, right, right.
But before we wrap up, what are you most grateful for about in your journey up to this point? Is it the people you've worked with? Is it, the just the how you've been around these mentors? What stands out for what you've been
Yeah, I think the support, it's really rare, I think, to be so supported by family in
family
a
supporting you?
creative.
Yeah.
So I feel so grateful, even looking back to all of the voice lessons my parents drove me to, all of the auditions, all the times my mom sat in the waiting room with me, and then yeah, as I got older and that expanded, I made more and more relationships with teachers, mentors, collaborators, people that uh, have been very loyal to me. Like the cruise that I did last year was
Right.
the Broadway cruise. I just was asked back for the third Broadway cruise that they're doing in end of March.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, man, like so much of it is just being a good person,
Yeah.
Be talented, show up, do your work, but also be someone that other people want to be around. So a lot of it is it's half grateful for all of the support and the help and the team that I have, and the other half is grateful that I've been able to even be resilient and learn and change. And at the end, really have just gotten comfortable in my own skin, and that was not an easy feat.
No, I'm understand completely. So,
Yeah.
so where can everybody find your website and stuff
My
and
website is my
social
name.
media?
Yeah. www.kerrigeorge.com. My Instagram is I'm Kerri George, and I think my YouTube channel is the same.
Kerri George, thank
Kerri
you.
George. Yes. Thank you so much.